The order, we start with questions. Secretary for the Secretary of State for Works and Pensions, Will Stone.
Question number 1, please, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, there should be no benefit decisions without explanation. Claim decisions should always be set out with the reasons. If a decision is unclear or the reasons are unclear, a further detailed verbal or written explanation can be requested and will be provided.
Will Stone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the Minister for his response. Could he please outline to me how this government will support young disabled people in having a positive engagement with the benefit system and alongside work? Thank you.
Minister.
Well, I'm grateful to my honourable friend, and he's absolutely right to press for improvements. But we do want to change the way job centres are thought about, the way the benefit system is thought about. Our youth work coaches talk a lot to disabled young people, and they're very keen to be able to help more. Our reforms are making that possible, giving better help and support and opening up new opportunities for disabled young people up and down the country.
Jim Shannon.
Mr. Speaker, Minister, my staff member does benefit applications and appeals and tribunals at least 5 days a week. Along with myself, she's the person who overturns 75% of all those applications in favour of the applicant. It tells me, Mr. Speaker, there's something wrong with the system. I have to say and put it on record, I am really, really worried sick for my constituents who suffer from mental issues because of our conflict of 30 years, but also physical issues as well. And Minister, there must be a system that protects those people, protects my constituents, protects the people that I represent in this House and the people that we all represent.
Minister.
Well, I think the honourable gentleman, again, is right to call for improvements. We do want to see improvements in assessments. I think he's probably well aware that we will shortly be publishing a green paper with proposals for reform to the health and disability benefit system, and we will have something to say about that in the course of that document.
Under Martin.
Question number 2.
Secretary of State.
With your permission, Mr. Speaker, before I answer, I want to say there has understandably been lots of speculation about the government's reforms to social security, and I want to assure the House, and most importantly the public, that we'll be coming forward with our proposals imminently to ensure there is trust and fairness in the social security system, and to ensure that it is there for people who need it now and for years to come. With permission, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to answer questions 2, 5, 11 and 21 together. Almost 1 million young people are not in education, employment or training. That is terrible for their living standards, future job prospects and for their health. That is why our new Youth Guarantee will ensure every young person is earning or learning. Our trailblazers, backed by £45 million of additional funding, will lead the way and will start in 8 areas next month.
Under Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much. All of those 1 million people are a real person, and I was contacted by a young man in my constituency who studied an early years education T-level and wanted to enter a desperately understaffed profession that has been struggling ever since to access that starter job. Being out of work, being young, can have a scarring effect that impacts people's jobs and prospects for a lifetime. So can the Secretary of State, working to identify people at risk of being NEET, ensure my constituents that working with him to support finding meaningful work?
State.
I thank my honourable friend for her question. Her constituent deserves to fulfil his potential and live his hopes and dreams like everybody else. And we will be working hard with the Department for Education to identify those young people who are at risk of being NEET, to make sure we put in place the skills and training they need to get the jobs of the future and fulfil their potential as they deserve.
Foody.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I suspect there might be quite a spike in the number of Geordies not in work today, given the cup final at the weekend. But recently I visited Azure, a charity in my constituency, providing learning and work opportunities, especially for young people with learning disabilities. And I heard from them about the incredible work that they do in providing young people with hands-on experience in a hospitality-based, work-based learning environment. Can the Secretary of State detail more about what government can do to support charities like Azure to provide these vital opportunities?
I really want to congratulate Azure for the brilliant work that they do, and I believe that charities and voluntary organisations have an essential role in getting people on the pathway to work and success. I know from my own constituency, with the supported internship programmes that have been run, including through my local hospital, that young people with learning difficulties with the right support can get those jobs, get that work, and that's what this government wants to deliver.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'm increasingly concerned by the rising number of young people in Milton Keynes who are out of work due to mental health issues. I think this is a key factor behind the nearly 12% increase in young people claiming unemployment benefits in Milton Keynes since 2024. Can the Secretary of State outline what steps the government is taking to ensure these young people have the support and opportunities they need to continue to improve their health, secure stable employment and live independently with better living standards?
Secretary of State.
I really share my honourable friend's concern about the number of young people not in work due to mental health conditions. That has increased by over 25% in the last year alone, and now stands at 270,000 young people who are economically inactive due to poor mental health. That is why we are focusing on early intervention, providing mental health support in every school, recruiting an extra 8,500 more mental health staff, but also why this is such an important part of our youth guarantee and the trailblazers that we will be launching from April to make sure every young person is earning or learning.
Faversham.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Children and young people are the future of Derby, and the Derby Promise recognises this. It's bringing together businesses and organisations from across our great city to give children meaningful, aspirational experiences, whether that's at iconic factories, cultural or sports venues. But we know that children already face limits on their future career aspirations by the age of 7. Can the Minister outline what work her department is taking to support children in Derby and across the UK from an early age to raise their aspirations when it comes to a future career? And will she agree to visit Derby to see the Derby Promise in action?
State.
I or one of my team will definitely visit Derby Promise, and I really share his concerns that young people are ruling out future careers at a young age. I met with the Careers and Enterprise Company on Friday, and they told me children are ruling out careers by their gender at age 7 and by their class by age 9. And for this party, that is not good enough. I hope that Derby Promise will be involved in the youth guarantee in the East Midlands, led by the Mayor there, Claire Ward, because we have to unlock the potential of every young person if they and this country is going to succeed.
Dyke.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Like young people in Portsmouth North, Cramlington and at Killingworth and Derby South, young people in Glastonbury and Somerton face barriers to their employment, education and training due to poor public transport infrastructure. However, research has shown that a 1% improvement in public transport times could support a 1% reduction in employment deprivation. So what steps is the Minister taking alongside Cabinet colleagues to remove barriers to employment, education and training in rural areas?
Right.
The Honourable Lady makes a really important point, and it's one that mayors and local leaders raise with us regularly, and actually families who are struggling, children, young people in poverty. That is why we believe that putting mayors and local leaders in the driving seat of change so they can link up transport, skills, job opportunities as part of our plans is so important, and myself and my honourable friend, the Minister for Employment, have been working closely with local leaders to make sure that happens, because if you've got to get work, the transport's got to be in place.
Max Wilkinson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Minister for Employment and Disabilities was kind enough to come to the launch of the What Comes After Education report by the National Star and the Together Trust. One of the key findings of that report is that young people with disabilities face particular problems when trying to access work. The system is set up against them, workplaces are set up not to work for them, and all they want to do, many of them, is just do what they can to find meaningful employment. So when ministers are making decisions about upcoming welfare changes, I hope that report will be on their desk and it will be properly considered.
Secretary of State.
Absolutely, and the Honourable Gentleman will indeed be hearing more about our plans, which will include proper employment support to help people on a pathway to success. We have our Keep Britain Working Review, led by the former boss of John Lewis, Charlie Mayfield, which is looking at precisely this issue. What more can employers do with the support from government to create healthier, more inclusive workplaces and help do more to guarantee that disabled people who can work have the same rights and choices to work as everybody else.
Jess Bramford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Much like the constituencies mentioned, my young people in Chichester are struggling to find work, and that's no more apparent than in those with learning difficulties. So will the Secretary of State join me in congratulating Together Our Community, shortened to TOC, that are providing work experience for young people with learning disabilities from 18 to 35, to show that they do have something to offer the workforce. TOC are about to open their own cafe and centre for these young people. And so will the Secretary of State outline what support is available for charities like this and join me at their opening next month?
Secretary of State.
I will indeed congratulate TOC. They sound like they're doing fantastic work, and on Friday I was talking to the head teacher of a special needs school near my constituency, who was talking about we have to absolutely make sure work experience, careers advice, working with voluntary groups are all part of the package of support that we put in place. And I will certainly, if possible, try myself or one of my colleagues come and see the work they're doing, because charities and voluntary groups are absolutely critical to this government's plans.
We now come to Secretary of State Helen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Back in the autumn, the Right Honourable Lady said, "We will not allow young people not to be in education, employment or training." How is it possible then that since Labour have been in office, there are 100,000 more young people in exactly that situation?
Secretary of State.
She had 14 years to solve this problem, and their record is clear. Nearly 1 million young people not in education, employment or training, 1 in 8 of all of our young people. Young people with mental health concerns out of work now reach 270,000. That is the legacy of 14 years of the Conservative government, and it's a legacy this government is determined to change.
Helen Whately.
Mr. Speaker, I said since the party opposite have been in government, the answer is because of her Chancellor, her tax on jobs, her economic mismanagement. Those decisions are costing young people opportunities. Instead of taxing jobs, they should have been ready with a plan for welfare reform back at the time of the budget. They have spent 9 months trying to cobble one together, Mr. Speaker, and still we wait. Why did the Right Honourable Lady not make any plans in opposition, and does she regret that?
The Secretary of State.
Members opposite had no plan. Even their own former Chancellor admitted the numbers were made up. The only thing that they did put forward, proposals on the work capability assessment, have recently been ruled illegal by the courts. No plan, but a clear record, leaving people behind, writing them off and putting them on the scrap heap. But this Labour government will turn that round, get people on a pathway to success and get our country on the pathway to success too.
Joshua Reynolds.
Question 3, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The two-child benefit cap was introduced by the Conservative Party 10 years ago. Their period in office saw child poverty rise to over 4 million and 1 in 3 of our children arriving at primary school not ready to learn. As soon as the Secretary of State and I were appointed, we got to work to establish our child poverty task force, as was promised in Labour's manifesto, and those efforts are ongoing.
Joshua Reynolds.
Mr. Speaker, A study by the British Medical Journal found that people in food poverty have diets with worse health outcomes, including more fat, sugar and salt. So what conversations has the Minister had with the Health Secretary about how lifting the two-child benefit cap could improve diets and reduce costs for the NHS?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think the Health Secretary and I have talked about child poverty many times as we sat on those benches watching the situation for our kids get worse and worse every year. But the member makes a very serious and important point about the wide-ranging consequences of poverty. And if I may, I would encourage him to perhaps submit the evidence he mentioned to the Child Poverty Task Force so that we can take full account of it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, 1 in 2 children in my constituency of Hackney South and Shoreditch live in poverty. And there's a lot of speculation swirling around the excellent Child Poverty Task Force, which I applaud the government for establishing. One of those is that the cap could be lifted for under 5s, which would affect fewer than 20,000 households, compared with the 440,000 households which currently are affected by the two-child benefit cap. Can the Minister reassure the House and the country that the Child Poverty Task Force is looking to support all children in poverty, whatever decisions it comes up with, and not just a small segment of them?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, I can. All children matter, and we're taking account of a considerable range of different policy options, working carefully through the impact that they will have. But, Mr. Speaker, all of the children in this country matter.
Paul Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I meet regularly with Department for Business and Trade ministers, and we are committed to working with businesses to ensure policy is pro-employer and pro-worker. Boosting wages will increase workforce participation, helping employers fill vacancies and supporting us to reach an 80% employment ambition.
Paul Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With many members on that side of the House claiming that they care about young people being employed, has her department made assessments on the employment impact of the decision to introduce minimum guaranteed hours for students and young people who rely on the flexibility of being able to pick and choose their work hours, particularly those who are working in the hospitality sector, a sector which is being decimated by this government?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think the honourable gentleman is referring to the ban on exploitative zero-hours contracts. But if somebody wants a flexible hours contract, then that's a good thing. And there is nothing in the changes that will prevent that. In fact, what I found being in DWP is that employers have had not sufficient contact from job centres, and only 1 in 6 think about using them. So in terms of getting young people a proper range of choices and jobs through the job centre, not nearly enough work had been done to serve employers better. And that's what a real growth agenda looks like from DWP.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Law Phéilipóra Conaghuiv. Happy St Patrick's Day to you and to all of your team. The disability employment gap stands at 30%, and countless disabled workers end up out of work because their employers refuse to make simple changes that would help them do their jobs. Does the Minister agree that the default right to flexible working in Labour's Employment Rights Bill will help many disabled workers to keep jobs they love? And what else can her department do to help more disabled people to find and keep work?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and may I say how great it is to hear the beautiful language of Irish spoken in this chamber. With regards to flexibility, I do think with the increase in conditions that can be very variable over time, that flexible working right will help people. And the Minister for Disabled People and I are working very closely with disabled people's organisations and charities and others to think about how we can build those pathways into work as we change job centres and improve employment support, making sure that raising the disability employment rate is at the heart of those changes.
Jonathan Brash.
The 6, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
With permission, Mr. Speaker, I'll answer questions 6 and 15 together. We will be reforming the current broken system of health and disability benefits. We'll bring forward very soon a green paper with a proper plan setting out how we will help disabled people who can work to do so while fully supporting the most severely disabled as well.
Jonathan Brash.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Work is good for us. It is good for our physical health, our mental health and our general well-being. And where someone can work, it is essential that they are given all the support to do so. That said, it is also imperative that those who are sick, vulnerable or disabled are always protected. Does he agree with me that striking this balance between supporting those who can work and protecting those who can't must be central to any welfare reform?
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is absolutely right, and that balance will be at the heart of the Green Paper that we're bringing forward. We will deliver proper employment support for disabled people, which has been taken away since 2010. We will deal with the incentives to inactivity, which the current system presents. But there will, of course, always be people unable to work through disability or ill health, and we are absolutely committed to fully supporting them too.
Ms. Jarvis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My constituents in Eastleigh, who support and help care for disabled family members, are desperately concerned about any potential cuts to benefits, including personal independence payments. They include Laura, whose son is registered blind, and Debbie, who helps care for her disabled daughter and is herself disabled. Can the Minister reassure my constituents that disability benefits for people who are unable to work will not be cut?
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I am concerned about the level of anxiety there has been around over recent weeks and speculation, and I'm sad that that's happened and that people have been concerned. But what I would say to her is that the current welfare system is failing the very people it is supposed to help, the people it's there for. And our aim is to make the system sustainable so that it'll be there for people now and in the future. And I think when she sees the proposals, she'll see how we're going to deliver on that commitment.
To the Select Committee, Debbie Abrahams.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Can my right honourable friend confirm that there will be an analysis alongside the Green Paper on the impacts that it will have on poverty, employment and on health?
Minister.
I can confirm to my honourable friend that we will be producing a full impact assessment in due course.
Esther McVeigh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When I was a minister in the Department of Work and Pensions, working with my right honourable friend for Chingford and Woodford Green in reducing welfare dependency and getting 1,000 more people into work each and every day and delivering record numbers of people into work, the Labour Party opposed us every step of the way. So can I take it that the recent conversion to reducing the benefit bill from the government is only about conning the OBR into thinking they will balance the books after their disastrous budget rather than because they really believe in it?
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I remember extremely well when the Right Honourable Lady was a minister in the department. It was very striking how the disability employment gap, which had been falling up till 2010, suddenly stopped falling and plateaued from that moment on. We are going to be delivering, Mr. Speaker, a decisive shift to early intervention, helping people to stay in work, to renew fairness, to renew trust in the system, and we'll be providing personalised support so that those who can work can get the jobs that they want.
Lincoln Jack.
Question number 7, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The introduction of universal credit and the policy choices of the last Conservative government do seem to have had some effect on people's propensity to be in work. And in January, the Department for Work and Pensions published data showing that of the increase in incapacity benefits caseload since the 2018 universal credit rollout, 30% of the rise in claims could be explained by foreseeable demographic change and the effect of the structural alterations to the benefit, which leaves 70% of the increase that we do not have data to explain. But the OBR and others have drawn attention to the structure of social security and the changes over the past decade. On publishing the analysis I mentioned just now, I told this House that the previous Conservative government took decisions on social security that segregated people away from work and forgot about them, and I stand by those comments.
Lincoln Jott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The people of Spelthorne are very hard-working and they don't mind their taxes being paid for a safety net for the most vulnerable in our society, but they really do get annoyed when they see their taxes going to people who are scamming the benefit system. What assessment has any of the front bench made of these so-called sickfluencer sites, social media platforms where people are shown how to game the benefit system? Have any of them looked at them, and are they a good or a bad thing?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the honourable gentleman for his question. He will know that we have a fraud bill going through the House at the moment, and the issue that he has raised is at the forefront of the attention of my fellow minister, the Minister for Transformation, and he will take every step that he can to deal with issues in that area.
Chris Lentz.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Friday, I visited Stansted Airport, a huge employer for my constituency of Harlow, and found out about the important work they're doing, working with the DWP and the Job Centre to get long-term unemployed people back into work. Can I ask the Minister what work her department are doing to work with people like Stansted Airport to see good practice like Stansted and working minds in my constituency?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And could I, through my honourable friend, give my thanks to everybody in Harlow Job Centre, because it sounds like they've got their shoulder to the wheel, getting job opportunities for people who need them. When we arrived in the department, we uncovered that there was not nearly a good enough relationship between the department and employers. That's why we put a new strategy in place, doing the basics well with a single point of contact and making sure that we've got on-the-job training that's tailored to specific employers. So we'll be doing more to change in that area, but thank you to everyone in Harlow for the efforts that they're making.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson Steve Dowling.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And there continues, Mr. Speaker, to be unacceptable delays in processing access to work applications, both for my constituents in Torbay and across the country. This leads to fears amongst those disabled people that these job offers will be withdrawn by their would-be employers. What reassurance can the Minister give the Chamber that they have plans afoot to tackle this backlog?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the honourable member makes a very important point, and we had a manifesto commitment in place to try to tackle the backlog. We've put more staff in place to deal with that, but we've got more to do because it is important that disabled people are able to take up jobs that are offered to them, and we need to make sure that that is a scheme that works.
Vicky Slay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question 8, please.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government has been running the biggest ever pension credit take-up campaign, and in the latest stage we're now writing to all pensioners who make a new housing benefit claim and appear to be entitled to pension credit, directly targeting them and encouraging them to apply.
Vicky Slay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The rate of take-up for pension credit has traditionally been between 60 and 65%, which, if that was uplifted, could take 400,000 people out of income poverty. And in Dorset, around 20% increase in the number of over 65s over the last decade. But the biggest concern they're saying is about the paperwork they have to complete. The applications are up to 225 questions purely for pension credit, and so many could very easily be able to claim for things like carers addition through a slight tweak in the paperwork. So what is the department doing to simplify and combine the applications to make life easier for pensioners?
Minister.
Thank you. We are already doing a lot to simplify the process. It now takes 60 minutes on average to complete an online form, and 90% of people apply online or over the phone. But she's completely right to highlight that we must do more, including simplifying the form. We continue to keep that under review, and I'd always be interested in ideas to go further.
Come to Shadow Minister Stanley Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When they scrapped the universal entitlement to the winter fuel payment, they said that all 880,000 people eligible for it would get it through pension credit. We now know that didn't happen. They've got less than 120,000 new pensioners enrolled. More than 750,000 of the poorest pensioners missing out on a vital support this winter. So will the Minister tell us, was that the plan all along, to save money at the expense of the poorest pensioners, or will he admit that he has completely failed in his duty towards the most poor elderly people in our society?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I mean, the lesson I've learned is from the last government that put up pensioner poverty year after year after year by 300,000 over the course of the last government. And what this government has done is run a pension credit take-up campaign that has seen an 81% increase in applications since July compared to the period last year, and 46,000 more awards compared to that period. That is what a government doing its job looks like.
There are 45,000 more awards than the same period last year. We're talking about 880,000 people who are eligible. It's a pathetic achievement, and they've spent millions of pounds advertising this. And we've still got thousands of people waiting for their winter fuel payment, and the winter is over, so it's a little late for their next advertising plan. The fact is we still don't know who has missed out, what the waiting time for them was, what the effect has been on pensioner poverty, what the effect has been on hospital admissions, which have increased significantly for pensioners. Given the scandalous failure of the pension credit campaign, will the government release all available data on the impact of the winter fuel payment cut?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we've already released significant data on that, and as I say, just weeks ago, data showing the unparalleled success of the campaign to drive up pension credit take-up in recent days. And what we're doing now is concentrating on increasing support for pensioners right across the board, because the biggest disgrace from the last government was where they left this health service that our older generations rely on, and we are turning that around day after day.
Andrew Lewin.
Question number 9, please, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Supporting everyone to find good, meaningful work and helping them to progress is vital for economic growth. This includes disabled people who want to work and contribute, but who are let down by the current system. Job centres have a key role to play in this, and through creating a new Jobs and Careers Service, we will help more people get into work and on at work, supporting our ambition for an 80% employment rate.
Andrew Luke.
Very grateful to the Minister for his answer. I'm fortunate in my community that we have an above-average number of 18 to 24-year-olds, but when I was talking to the manager of the Hatfield Job Centre just last week, they said to me that the single biggest barrier for young people to get into work was their mental health, as a number of colleagues have spoken about in the Chamber today. Could the Minister say a little bit more about our objective for helping young people into work? And does he agree with me that the only way we're going to succeed in growing the economy is by helping those people overcome those barriers to their mental health?
Minister.
My honourable friend is absolutely correct to highlight the importance of tackling economic inactivity in order to drive up economic growth. This government understands the negative effects that unemployment can have on mental health, particularly amongst young people, which can impact future prospects. The Youth Guarantee will help address barriers faced by young people to ensure that they can access quality training opportunities, an apprenticeship or help to find work, boosting their confidence to give them the very best chance of success in the workplace.
John Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A few weeks ago, I visited Salisbury Job Centre and I met with Kirsty Reeks and George Thornley, who were helping me organise a jobs fair on Thursday, the 8th of May. They couldn't have been more helpful. Their encyclopedic knowledge of the local jobs market and businesses was so impressive. Would the Minister congratulate them and thank them for the help that they're giving me for the jobs fair in Salisbury Guildhall on the 8th of May? But would he also reflect on what incentives job centres could have to actually reach out to businesses and deepen their knowledge of local labour markets?
Minister.
Can I thank the honourable gentleman for his question? He's absolutely correct to raise the issue of job centres reaching out to local employers. We know that we have a significant issue with the job centre being the vehicle of choice to advertise local job opportunities. This is a long-standing issue and something that we are keen to address. And of course, I am delighted to congratulate his local job centre on the work that they are doing to promote the jobs fair.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. Question number 10.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Official unemployment currently sits at 4.4%, which is clearly much lower than the historic high, which was 11.9% in June 1984. However, today's official unemployment level masks the legacy of the recent Conservatives period in office, which saw numbers of people off sick rise to nearly 3 million, concentrated in places with employment rates well below the national average, creating a vicious circle where people are forced to leave the place they love for a chance of a career, and those who are left do worse and worse, which is why, as part of our Get Britain Working reforms, we're building a new jobs and careers service that will be locally tailored and that will help everyone find access to support to get a good, meaningful job and help people progress in work.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. Compared to this time last year, almost 500 more people are on the claimant count in Basildon and Billericay. Almost 100 more of those are under 25. How many more will have to be made unemployed before Labour ministers listen to charities, GPs, supermarkets, manufacturers and care providers who visited me in my constituency, who've come and said that that Labour need to think again about their catastrophic national insurance rise, which before it even hits in April is already costing the jobs of my constituency?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've got a significant reform plan to make sure that we tailor job centre support towards the needs of employers, because there's still a significant number of vacancies out there that young people ought to be making the most of and able to start their career and to progress in life. And that's why we've got a new employer strategy so that the Department for Work and Pensions can serve businesses properly.
Neil Duncan-Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Disabled people often face additional barriers, of course, when it comes to trying to get back into work. Rather than freezing or cutting their benefits, does the Minister acknowledge that we will need to invest in those people to help them and sustain them back into work?
Minister.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I do agree. We see potential in every single person in this country. And many of those who've been written off and left on the scrap heap deserve a much better pathway back into work.
Marcus Cummins.
Question number 12, please, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Department works collaboratively across other government departments and law enforcement agencies on investigations into benefit fraud carried out by organised criminal gangs. New powers in the fraud bill, previously mentioned by my honourable friend, will strengthen our capability to tackle organised crime by modernising and enhancing our investigation powers, granting DWP officials powers of search and seizure, and ensuring those defrauding the public sector face appropriate consequences.
Mr. Campbell-Savers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome the new powers in the fraud bill and note the huge increase in pension credit fraud seen in recent years. Can the Minister explain how capital fraud and fraud where recipients stay out of the country longer than the rules require, both of which account for 50% of all pension credit fraud, will be targeted under the new rules?
Minister.
My honourable friend is entirely right to raise this issue, and the eligibility verification measure that is embedded within the new bill will do just that, providing a crucial data feed to help us identify fraud in pension credit as well as universal credit and employment support allowance. This will flag claimants who are potentially in breach of eligibility around capital and abroad criteria so that we can start to get the unacceptable level of fraud down and protect the public purse.
Luke Akers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question number 13.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our commitment to the triple lock throughout this Parliament means spending on the state pension is set to rise by £31 billion a year. Individuals are set to see increases of up to £1,900 a year, benefiting 21,000 pensioners in North Durham and 12 million people across Britain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the Minister for that answer. In addition to protecting the triple lock for every pensioner in the country, I welcome that the Government is tackling the biggest issues for pensioners by uprating pension credit higher than the rate of inflation, encouraging higher take-up of pension credit and substantially increasing funding for our NHS. Can the Minister tell me how many pensioners in North Durham currently claim pension credit and how many are entitled to it but don't claim it and could benefit from this increase?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My honourable friend is absolutely right about the importance of the 4.1% increase in pension credit that will take place in just a few weeks' time. And there are around 3,000 people claiming pension credit in North Durham. But my honourable friend is also absolutely right to highlight the more than £25 billion investment this government is making in the NHS. The unacceptable state of the health service is the biggest betrayal of old generations by the party opposite, and we are going to change that.
Snell.
Number 14, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. in the year to September 2024, 4.7% of working age people were unemployed in Stoke-on-Trent. But as I mentioned in response to answers just now, that often masks bigger problems with economic inactivity, often due to ill health. And that's why our plan is to join up work, health and skills support, and for local areas across England to have a Get Britain Working plan, so that every part of this country has a plan to grow.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's quite clear that the government is sincere in its attempt to remove the barriers facing people with mental health conditions into work. So could I issue an invitation to and commend to the Minister the work of the Combined Healthcare Trust in Stoke-on-Trent and their peer support mentors. These are people who have overcome mental health challenges into work, who now work with other people struggling with their own mental health to build confidence and opportunity. Whatever plan the government's bringing forward, Mr. Speaker, this sort of work should be central to it, and I think if they came to see it, they'd be very impressed.
Mr. Speaker, I'd love to come to Stoke, and there are so many football-related jokes I could make at this point, but I will not trouble the House. I would love to come to Stoke, not just on a wet Tuesday, but the member makes the case for exactly the strategy underpinning our reform, which is to join up health and work support. I have seen in my own constituency the power of peer mentors for mental health conditions, and I would love to come to see the brilliant work that he himself has just reported to the House.
Williams.
16, please, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary of State.
Many disabled people want to work, but were written off and failed by the last government. Our Work Aspirations survey of health and disability claimants found that a third wanted to work at some point in future if their health improved or the right job was available, and 200,000 said they would work now if they got the right support. This government will ensure disabled people who can work have the same rights and chances to work as everybody else, because that principle of equality is what this Labour government is for.
David Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Christopher, a resident of Torque in my constituency, was badly let down by a flawed PIP assessment, one that lacked basic humanity and empathy. Now, with reports of welfare reforms in the media, he is deeply worried about what the future holds. So can I ask the Minister what steps will be taken to ensure that people like Christopher are treated with fairness and dignity and given the support that they need?
Secretary of State.
I absolutely want to say to my honourable friend and his constituent that treating people with dignity and respect is at the heart of this government's plans. I know as a constituency MP for 14 long years under the Conservatives that there will always be people who cannot work because of the severity of their disability or their illness. But I also meet day in, day out, disabled people who are denied the chance of work for many different reasons. That is what we want to put right, to make sure that the social security system is there for those who need it, not just now, but for years to come.
So Jeremy Wright.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As the Secretary of State puts in the report, is she considering the PIP reassessment process? And would she agree that it would be sensible when considering PIP reassessments for people whose conditions are not going to get any better, that unless they wish to be reassessed, it would be sensible to relieve them of the burden of that reassessment process? Less distressing for them, saving money in the system, and allowing people who do need reassessment to be reassessed faster.
Minister.
I agree with a lot of what the honourable gentleman says. Patience is never my greatest virtue, but I would ask him to be patient and the rest of the House to look at the full proposals that we will be putting forward imminently.
Josh McAllister.
See, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Department supports care leavers aged 16 to 24 through an extensive range of interventions to help them into employment. For example, care leavers who start an apprenticeship are signposted to a £3,000 bursary from their training provider and, of course, can still receive universal credit if on a low income. More broadly, under the new Youth Guarantee, all young people aged 18 to 21 years in England, including care leavers, will have access to support to enter employment, education or training opportunities.
Josh McAllister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and thank you to the Minister for the answer. 39% of young care experienced people are not in education, employment or training. That's 3 times the average rate. And it's costing the UK in lost tax revenue alone over £145 million a year. We can't achieve the ambition of getting Britain working unless we untap the potential of this amazing group of young people. So will ministers agree with me that we need to take bold, imaginative action to radically improve the number who are going into work?
My honourable friend is absolutely correct to highlight those statistics. The number of care leavers not in education, employment or training is absolutely unacceptable, and he will be stunned to hear that I am in full agreement with him.
Come to topicals, Jessica Tell.
Question number 1, Mr Speaker.
Secretary of State.
Mr Speaker, this week is Sign Language Week, and my right honourable friend, the Minister for Social Security and Disability, will be speaking in the backbench debate to mark Sign Language Week on Thursday. This week is also Neurodiversity Celebration Week. Neurodivergent people face particular barriers to employment, with less than 1 in 3 in work. Everyone deserves the chance to fulfil their potential, so we recently launched a new independent panel to advise us on these issues. The experts on this panel, including neurodivergent people themselves, will present their recommendations to us later this year, and I very much look forward to their findings.
Jessica Tell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Last week I visited the Crumbs project in my constituency, Bournemouth West. Crumbs provides training for people with disabilities and mental health conditions to get the professional skills they need to go into the hospitality industry and the personal skills they need to live independently. 90% of their trainees move into employment. So given the Secretary of State's commitment to bringing people with long-term health conditions and disabilities back into work, what more support can she give to successful programmes like Crumbs?
Secretary of State.
I welcome the work that Crumbs is doing in my honourable friend's constituency. I want to make sure that not only do we overhaul our job centres, have a new youth guarantee, join up work, health and skills support through our Get Britain Working Plan, but that crucially our job centres and others work closely with organisations like that, because it is only by working together that we will get the right support to help people on a pathway to work and a pathway to success.
Secretary of State Helen Whately.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. We heard yesterday that the Cabinet had not yet seen the welfare plan that the Right Honourable Lady is apparently due to announce tomorrow. Given all the media briefings, the apprehension of disabled people and the growing number of people not working, none of us would want to see that delayed. So can she assure us that she has got collective agreement so she can announce her plan here in this chamber tomorrow?
Secretary of State.
The Honourable Lady will have to show a little patience, and she talks about plans. We've seen her and the Shadow Chancellor writing in various newspapers claiming about their plan, but there never was a plan. There never was a plan. The former Chancellor, the Right Honourable Member for Godalming and Ash, actually admitted this during the election when he said that the numbers had already been scored, and the only thing that they ever put forward was ruled illegal by the courts. They had 14 years to put this right. This government will act.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I was listening very hard to that answer, and from everything I heard, she still doesn't have the support of her Cabinet colleagues with less than 24 hours to go. It was a no. There's never a good time for millions of people to be out of work, but as the world gets more dangerous, we can afford neither the benefits bill nor the waste of human potential. Given the opposition of her party to welfare reform, can she assure me that her planned reforms will grasp the nettle and bring the benefits bill down?
This from a government that left 1 in 10 working-age people on a sickness and disability benefit, 1 in 8 young people not in education, employment or training, 2.8 million people out of work due to long-term sickness. Terrible for them, their life chances, their incomes and health, and terrible for taxpayers who are paying for an ever-spiralling bill for the costs of failure. Unlike the party opposite who wrote people off and then blamed them to get a cheap headline, we will take decisive action, get people into work and get this country on a pathway to success.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The number of young people not in education, training or work is disproportionately high in areas like Hartlepool that I represent, something that the party opposite did nothing about in 14 years. Can I ask the Secretary of State, how will she ensure that opportunity for young people reaches every part of our country?
Secretary of State.
We will never get this country growing again unless we provide good jobs, hope and opportunity in every part of the country, including in my honourable friend's constituency. He knows his region has one of the highest levels of people not in education, employment or training. Our youth guarantee will ensure every young person is earning or learning, and I look forward to working with him to deliver that on the ground.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson Steve Darling.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And will the Minister confirm that those people in receipt of disability benefits but profoundly cannot work will not face a cut in their benefits? Thank you.
I would say to the honourable gentleman, just as the right honourable member, the Minister for Social Security and Disability, we know that people there will always be people who cannot work because of the nature of their disability or health condition, and those people will be protected.
Jim Dickens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For many people living in Dartford, being given the opportunity to learn new skills would open the door to work, particularly with the prospect of new infrastructure projects like the Lower Thames Crossing on the horizon. Can the Minister reassure me that she's working with the Education Secretary to give all young people a route into good work?
Yes, it's not only that we are working closely together to expand the number of apprenticeships for young people, to look at changing the rules so you don't always have to have some of those, the basic GCSE maths and English to be able to get that new foundation apprenticeships. I think we need to go further by working closely with our schools. In my own constituency, on Friday I visited a school which is looking closely at the sort of risk factors for becoming NEET, and that is where we really need to take action.
Tim Farron.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Secretary of State co-chairs the Child Poverty Task Force. Will she confirm that that task force's brief will be very wide-ranging, including looking at children in poverty in dispersed rural communities like mine, but also taking practical steps to tackle poverty amongst migrant children whose parents have no recourse to public funds?
Absolutely, the child poverty strategy is looking widely, how we can increase people's incomes, including through work, how we can reduce costs, how we can ensure families are more financially resilient, looking at issues like debt and savings, and looking at how we give all children the best start in life, no matter their background, no matter where they live.
Jenny Riddle-Carpenter.
Will the Minister provide an update on the Jobs Plus pilot and what assessment has been given to its future rollout, including widening it to geographies including Suffolk Coastal?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Jobs Plus pilots were launched in July 2024 and are helping address employment barriers for residents of 10 social housing communities. We plan to publish our initial evaluation this summer, which will help us understand more about how this type of innovative community-led employment might support our vision to get Britain working, and I look forward to working with all members, especially her, on the next steps with this project.
Bradley Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There are many fantastic organisations across Bromsgrove and the villages, including Legacy Martial Arts, the Basement Project and the Scouts, that do fantastic work to support young people. The committed individuals behind these, the work that they do, it bolsters the confidence, skills and mental health of young people. So will the Minister join me in thanking these organisations for the work that they do across my constituency, and will the Minister outline what support is available to these organisations to support them in the valuable work that they do?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I absolutely will join the member in thanking all of those organisations he just mentioned in his constituency. And if I might say to him that if he could link them up with his local job centre so that we can help make that connection between young people who really suffered disadvantage and that really positive community support that is available for them in his constituency, that would be very helpful.
Nearly 1 in 7 young people in the UK are not in work, education or training. That's an 11-year high. So, Secretary of State, given that my Slough constituency is the youth capital of Britain, what is the government doing to ensure that young people have the opportunities to build the successful careers and futures that they so fully deserve?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as my honourable friend mentions, there are important opportunities in Slough that young people growing up there need to be able to take advantage of, and that's why we launched our youth guarantee as part of our plan to get Britain working. It will be there for 18 to 21-year-olds, and again, if I might encourage him to work with his local job centre in Slough as we improve the support that's available for young people.
Vicky Slade.
Mr. Speaker, Sarah in my constituency of Mid Dorset North Pool left an abusive relationship, but on applying for maintenance, her ex-partner denied parentage, putting the children through DNA tests, delaying things, claiming special expenses, then declaring nil earnings despite having just bought a house with a mortgage, accepted with no investigation, is now being asked to pay back his arrears of thousands of pounds at £1 per month. What is being done to review the burden of proof for income and support parents and children being financially abused even after they've left relationships? Good question.
Minister.
The honourable member may be aware that the department recently consulted on a range of proposals for future improvements to the child maintenance service, including how we can protect people from financial abuse and better support victims of domestic abuse. I'm not familiar, obviously, with the specifics of the case that she references, but if she'd like to write to me about that, I'd be more than happy to follow up.
So, Simon Hopper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And pension credit claims, as we've heard, have increased by 64%. I'd like to commend the Minister and the Department, and also Citizen Advice in Stroud, and in fact throughout the country, for making this happen. However, there are 800,000 people who are earning just above that limit and living in poverty. And I wonder whether, when fiscal situation arises, whether they will review the cap and indeed the gradient of this benefit. Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member is absolutely right to highlight both the progress that has been made and the hard work of the voluntary sector, including citizens' advice bureaus right across the country. But we must continue the recent progress, and we will still certainly be doing so. But I would also like to highlight that our support for pensioners goes far wider, including the 4.1% increase to the state pension and to the level of pension credit that the honourable member mentions in just a few weeks' time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week at a constituency meeting, I was told that small businesses are starting to ask employees to go self-employed as they can't otherwise keep roles open because of forthcoming national insurance contribution rises and extra employment laws. Is this a trend that the department will be watching out for in its data in case it wasn't the government's intention to make workers less secure with these new taxes and more regulations?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, since I and Secretary of State and other ministers have taken office, we have published a number of research reports, data and other bits of information that the DWP had previously sat on. So I think she can be rest assured that we monitor employment trends and are keen to make sure that the DWP is far more transparent about data than it has been before.
No law.
Mr. Speaker, my constituent Heidi recently moved off benefits back into work, only to find that she was earning less than when she was on benefits. Meanwhile, my constituent Tyrone is blind, has cerebral palsy and is autistic, and although he's an aspiring DJ, may struggle to find permanent work. So what steps is the Minister taking to ensure that we take a balanced approach, supporting those who cannot work with protection and dignity and security, whilst ensuring those that can work go back into work?
Well, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend sets out very well exactly the balance that we need to
strike with our plan proper employment support on the one hand, which hasn't been available in the past, and dealing with work disincentives in the current system as well. And I think when he sees the proposals shortly, he will welcome the measures that we're planning.
Kirsty Blackman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. If someone has an amputation, schizophrenia, terminal cancer, or uncontrolled epilepsy, can the Minister please reassure them that tomorrow's announcements will not mean a cut in their social security?
Well, Mr. Speaker, as we've made clear already today, we are absolutely determined to protect those who need to be protected in the proposals that we're bringing forward. I think she'll welcome the proposals when she sees them and be reassured by them.
Sarah Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There are currently thousands of children and now adults, of disabled children and adults across the country, including in Hindburn and Haslingden, who cannot access their childhood tax funds. How is the Minister working to address this with the Ministry of Justice to help families gain quick and easy access to these? And would he give further consideration to increasing the scope of the DWP appointee scheme to cover child tax funds and junior ISAs up to £5,000?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I welcome my honourable friend's interest in this, and she and I have met to discuss it. She's absolutely right. There should be no barriers in place to the young people and their families accessing the funds. The Ministry of Justice has made some progress already. I don't think the answer is going to be altering the DWP appointee scheme, but there will be further progress to make things easier.
So Desmond Swain.
What's the Minister's estimate for the number of pensioners who would qualify for pension credit but haven't applied in North Durham?
Well said. Yeah, Minister.
I thank the honourable member for his question. The Department for Work and Pensions doesn't produce data at the level of the constituency on the question he raised, but I'll tell him the answer at a national level, which is much lower than it was before this government came to office.
Whereas, Mr. Speaker, supporting people back into work is not only the right thing to do for the UK economy, but also the fair and compassionate thing to do for people stuck in the welfare system. However, over the last few days, a significant number of people have contacted my constituency office with profound concerns about what they have heard and read in the press. Does the Minister agree with me that by removing the culture of fear and creating a nurturing environment, we can help people back into work and give them the support they need to survive, not just to survive, but to thrive?
My honourable friend is absolutely right. We are absolutely determined to provide proper support. There has been proper support in the past. It disappeared after 2010. We want to provide that support again because so many people would thrive if they had it. We know there are 200,000 people at the moment out of work on health and disability grounds who would love to be in the job if they just had the support, and we're going to provide it.
Shanker.
Mr. Speaker, now for weeks the government's active trailing of welfare cuts has generated genuine fear. Disabled people in Brighton Pavilion are writing to me in literal terror. So will the Secretary of State apologise for this and reassure the public that actual benefit changes will not take place this calendar year or without parliamentary votes in this House?
Minister.
Well, the honourable member, first of all, I recognise there has been a good deal of anxiety, and I regret that that has occurred. But there won't be long to wait. The proposals will soon become clear, and I think she will welcome a great deal of the changes that we want to make.
Rachel Maskell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. York, as a human rights city, believes that disabled people should be at the heart of all decision-making. So could the Minister say how disabled people have formed his views in bringing these changes forward and have been at the heart of the decision-making here?
Well, my honourable friend is right, and we have in our manifesto a very firm commitment that the views and voices of disabled people should be at the heart of everything we do. So over the last week, I've had discussions with a number of disabled people's fora, and when we come forward with our proposals shortly, we will be consulting very extensively with disabled people and their organisations about the right way forward.
Andrew Stone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
After the government announced billions of cuts to the Secretary of State's department, and having over recent days seen ministers making U-turn after U-turn, and in the media round over the weekend spinning out of control, is there anything meaningfully left out of the Secretary of State's original plans for welfare to announce?
Secretary of State.
From a party that left a broken welfare system that is failing the people who depend on it and failing taxpayers. They had 14 years to put it right, and we know what their legacy is. Honourable members will see the proposals soon, but we will not shy away from the decisions that we believe are right to give opportunities to people who can work, security for those who can't, and get the welfare bill on a sustainable footing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Telegraph today has done a right hatchet job on the most socially deprived ward in my constituency. The people of the East Marsh, quite frankly, are sick and tired of journalists taking a day trip and coming and writing their poverty porn stories about people who are proud and keen to play their part in society in every way that they possibly can. They've sought to pit older people against younger people, highlighting the neat records. The young people in that ward are as keen to work as anybody else, but they need the jobs to do it. What discussions is she having about trade?
Well, there'll be no greater representative for her constituents than my right honourable friend, who rightly says they want the right chances and choices and support to work as anybody else. That's why we're creating more good jobs in every part of the country through our modern industrial strategy. We're improving the quality of work and making work pay through our employment rights bill, and our Get Britain working plan will give the work, skills and...
See, it's topical. So I've got a few members still get in. Peter Bedford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And it's right that the welfare system supports those with disabilities. However, does the Secretary of State agree with me that social media influencers that are teaching people to game the Motability system in order to get free vehicles is a disgrace? And if so, what does she intend to do about it?
Minister.
Well, the honourable gentleman will be aware that this falls under the umbrella of wider fraud. We inherited an appalling level of fraud in the welfare system under the previous government. Our fraud bill goes some way to tackling that as part of a broader package, £8.6 billion, the largest ever package brought forward to tackle fraud.
Steve Witherden.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given that nearly half of families in poverty have a disabled member, and without PIP, an additional 700,000 disabled households could be pushed into poverty, I am concerned that the rumoured cuts will not help people into work, but will instead drive them further into destitution. What assurances can the Minister give that the voices of disabled people have been heard and reflected in the upcoming Green Paper?
Mr. Speaker, I can give him a very firm commitment about that, and an assurance that not only that we have been listening, but we shall continue to listen once the proposals have been published.
Jim Allister, final question. Sorry.
Thank you. I previously urged the Secretary of State to liaise with the Department of Communities in Northern Ireland over its pitiful pursuit of benefit fraud. In the same vein, is the Minister aware that of the 39,000 new vehicles registered in Northern Ireland last year, 18,000 were under the mobility scheme? Isn't that indicative of appalling abuse of that scheme? And will the Secretary of State raise with the Department of Communities what they're doing about it?
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Motability scheme is a very valuable scheme, very highly valued by disabled people around the UK. If he has examples of misuse of that scheme, I would very much like to see those. But it's a scheme which is greatly prized, I think, right across the House, and I think he would discover that if he talked to other members about it.
Right, that completes questions.